Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube here. Um, if you are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, participation is of the utmost importance because I cannot see you. Hey, Kamora, because I can't see you if you don't comment on this platform because it's multicast or. So we're just keeping on where we left off with this very powerful book study. We're doing The Power of Now by Eckhart. I've heard it pronounced Tolle and Tolle, so I don't know how to say it, but you guys wanted me to go over this book after we finish Atomic Habits. So we are here on chapter 3, really going in depth through this very important book. And today we're going to talk about how to move past mental and emotional blocks that are keeping you from moving forward successfully. Because for those of you that have been participating for the past month and a half that we've been doing this, what you're starting to realize is that there is a theme to success, to moving forward in life, and to healing. And a lot of the times, the things that we have been taught are not the way that reality truly works. And so when we try to change our lives on our own, we end up butting our head up against the wall, trying to get things done, meeting resistance and frustration. For some of you, maybe you feel like burnt out or you just feel like you can't get ahead. And this book really solidifies, especially the spiritual side of who you are, so that you can know how to stand in your power in different situations and circumstances in life, so you are not feeling that way and you know how to navigate things more successfully to move forward. So this is The Power of Now. For those of you that actually have this book, we are starting on page 55. We are on chapter 3 right now. Really quickly, before we get into the book study for the night, I do have one quick announcement for those of you that don't know. If you struggle with protecting your energy from negativity, that means negative people, negative situations, they drain you, they take and take and take until you have nothing left to give, and you struggle with, keeping what's yours so that you can stay healthy and whole and keep your energy, but also learning about proper boundaries so this doesn't happen. You're not taking on other people's crap. They know when to not push you when you don't have enough energy, but you also know how to assert yourself and protect your energy in various situations and circumstances and relationships. Totally free class is going on August the 26th at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. There will be no replay for this class. So if you want to attend, you can either message me, hey Ashley, hey Keela, hey Cherish. I hope I'm saying that right. So if you want to attend this totally free class, then text the word mastery to the following phone number. The number is 833-231-4407 to sign up for this class. All right, so we're going to start on page 55. I love this lesson because you're going to start to get some more tangible answers on what you can do to start to move past mental and emotional pain that is keeping you from moving forward. Those of you that weren't listening to the previous days that we did when we started this book, you're missing out on some very powerful stuff. This book really breaks it down how you can learn to be in a space where you're not always in your head and you're not always impacted by the people and the situations around you. You're able to stay in your being and know what is truly you. And when you live in that space, day in and day out, then that's how you start to eliminate suffering. But this is tangible stuff. So for all of you that find that sometimes the spiritual stuff goes over your head, this will be more helpful for you. Hey, Wisconsin knitter. All right. So he starts off on page 55 at the bottom saying, intense presence is needed when certain situations trigger a reaction with a strong emotional charge, such as when your self-image is threatened. A challenge comes into your life that triggers fear, things go wrong, or an emotional complex from the past is brought up. In those instances, so we'll just call them triggers, but for all of us, it's going to be different things, right? You start to think that you're moving forward in life and then somebody says something or does something. He's saying that when that happens and you can feel yourself having this intense emotional response to a certain person or a situation, that is when you really have to tap into that being state that we've been talking about for the past few days. Because what usually happens for a lot of us is that we're inconsistent about moving forward in this optimal state. And so we end up reverting back to someone that is living unconscious. And the reaction or the emotion takes over you. So remember how we talked about the reason why a lot of things happen in our life is because we haven't been taught that we are not our mind and we are not our emotions. They are tools to help us if we learn how to use them optimally. But because we haven't learned to use them that way, we let them become us. And when these reactions or emotions become you, you act it out and you justify or you make something wrong or you attack or you defend. Except, guess what? It isn't you again. So here you are stepping out of the powerful soul that you were put on this earth to be in this body. You step outside of the power that you have to create the life that you want and to, not suffer so much or not have to deal with so much depression and heartache and frustration and burnout. Because even when you try to move forward and you tap into that a little bit, maybe you felt it for a minute. The minute that something is attacking your self image, your self identity, your sense of self, whatever you label to be safe, secure, anything that you are labeling as important to you, you start to act out certain emotions and reactions. And when you start to justify, make wrong, defend, or attack, you're thinking that you are thinking and feeling this way when you're not. It's a reactive pattern. The mind in its habitual survival mode. So if you are somebody that does not understand that you are an observer, you are not the thinker, meaning if you have a thought and you're thinking the thought, and you can step outside of yourself thinking a thought and you can observe the thoughts that are going through your head. Just for those of you that are new, it's telling you that you're not the thinker, you're the observer. So anytime you identify with the things that are going on, especially when they are unconsciously or pull you back into a pattern that is not for your highest and best good, you start to act out these things over and over again. And then you wonder why last year was the same as the year before. The things that were happening to you last month is the same as what happened to you before. It's because you unconsciously start to identify with the hurt, the pain. You attack or you try to defend or any of these things in order for you to feel this false sense of safety because you identify with these things. So that's just one that carries on from yesterday. So if you want to learn more about that, listen to yesterday's live. So now we're talking about time, just like we talked about yesterday, and how another thing that robs us of moving forward in life is that we spend a lot of time in our heads around things that aren't real. So the past is gone, it's over, it's no longer real. However, we pull energy from the past into our present situation, and we taint that the fact that living in the present is the way that we tap into our power and our being because we pull the past with us. Or some of us have the anxiety and worry and doubt and all this stuff where we are so far oriented into the future, what could happen, what should happen, what might happen, that again, we rob ourselves from the only thing that is truly real, which is being in this moment now. So he had mentioned earlier that time is an illusion, and this will help you understand more why when you live in the past and you identify with the past, or you live in the future and you don't do it in a way that is healthy and practical, you actually are doing yourself a disservice because time is an illusion. So he says, learn to use time in the practical aspects of your life. For these practical aspects where we have to use time in our life, we're going to call this clock time. But immediately after you use clock time to do some planning, maybe you had to do some going back in the past, and we'll talk about this in a minute, in order to learn lessons. After you've used clock time, then you need to turn back to the present. So you may have to go to the future a little bit, right? Maybe you got to save up for a trip and you want to plan it out and make sure it's unlocked. But after you do that, then you come back to the present. Or maybe you need to go look at the past because there's something happening there and you need to examine it so you don't do it again in the future. But after that, you don't need to bring any of those things into the only moment that is real. So that is called clock time, when practical matters have to be dealt with. Clock time is not just making appointments or planning trips. Clock time also includes learning from the past so you don't repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Clock time is also when you set goals and you work toward them. When you predict the future by means of patterns, laws, math, and so on, learn from the past, and you take appropriate action based on the things from the past, that is also clock time. That's a practical way that we can use time as a human being. However, we get stuck there. And so, what you should do most of the time is after you've done those, an enlightened person or woke or aware or conscious or spiritual, whatever you want to label yourself, that 99% of us don't do. An enlightened person's main focus and attention is in the now, even though we're aware of clock time. In other words, we use clock time, but this is where some of you get stuck. He calls this psychological time. So getting stuck in psychological time is this. Be alert as you practice this so you don't transform clock time into psychological time. And here's an example. If you made a mistake in the past and you learn from it now, then you are using clock time. On the other hand, if you dwell on it mentally, you want to psychoanalyze it. There's some self-criticism going on, some negative self-talk, remorse, guilt, all of those when you think about the past and you are making these mistakes or these things that didn't turn out the way that you wanted them to into me or mine, or this happened to me, this is a part of me, you make the past a part of your sense of self. And once you do that, it becomes psychological time. And psychological time is linked to that false sense of identity. And you remember how we've been talking about this for like the past month. If you start to claim an identity based on these things, then you wonder why you have this struggle and pain and strife, is because you have a false sense of who you are because you're basing them on a lot of things in life that aren't even real or aren't even true. Non-forgiveness necessarily implies a heavy burden of psychological time. So whether you're not forgiving yourself for the past mistakes, for maybe the decisions that you made in the past when you felt like you could have done better, maybe you are hard on yourself because you're not where you want to be, shoulda, woulda, coulda, then you are not in time, real time, clock time. You are in psychological time, which shows you that that's not real because the past is over, right? It's no longer a moment, it's now a memory. Let's see what else he has to say. I have a lot of stuff marked down here. So then he talks about how insane it is for those of us that get stuck in this psychological time and continue to perpetuate this and suffer from it, how crazy it makes us and how illogical it is. Oh, you said I'm not in real time. No, but don't feel bad because a lot of us aren't in real time. And this is not the way, this is not taught in school, right? It's not taught in our families. This is not how reality is taught to us. So that's why we're doing this, so we can get together and we can be in the present. All right. So the insanity of psychological time. What I wanted to point out in this part of chapter 3 was I keep beating myself up about not being where I think I should be in life. So all you're doing, Ashley, is just carrying all that past energy. The past that's not even real. It's just a memory, right? You are making it energized and you're making it continue to repeat and have this suffering and have this pain and have this doubt and have, like you said, beating yourself up about something that's not even real anymore. It's now just a memory. So the key is for you to identify with the fact that if you didn't take that stuff, learn from it, let it go, and then be in the now. And how can you make this now better so that tomorrow is not an instance where you have to beat yourself up about it or you have to think about where you should be? What can you do today to change that? The only moment that is real, the now. What can you do in the now to change that? You can start to focus more on on this now, which makes it easier and it's actually freeing. And it also helps us all understand how maybe you thought I was crazy when I said we create a lot of our own suffering and a lot of our own pain. Because the way that we do this is because we identify very strongly with memories, and it's almost like you identifying with if you became a character off of TV when you were a kid. If you really thought that you were Superman, people would think you were crazy because it's not real. It's not, it's just something that you're doing. It's something that you're pretending. It's something that you're making real. It's something, a pain that you're making real. I hope that makes sense. Because I think people get offended about that because they have their identity so tied up into the pain in the past that they can't understand that that is precisely why you have the pain in the present. All right. So how does this mind operate in your life? So this mind pattern of this psychological time that we talked about where you live in the past and live in the future. It makes sense. Okay, good. Are you always, these are questions you can answer in your head. So how does this operate in your own life? Are you always trying to get somewhere other than where you are? Is most of your doing just a means to an end? So to me, when he says a means to an end, it's like you're just going through the motions, right? You don't have a purpose. You don't have a goal. You are looking outside of yourself for answers as to what your passion is and all of that kind of stuff, instead of creating the life that you want. And so day in and day out, we already talked about this. You think the same thoughts. Most of them are negative. Most of them don't change from day in and day out. And so therefore your life doesn't change from day in and day out. So basically you are just going through the motions with the precious little time that you have in the body that you do have until you die. That's what you're doing. Or you might be settling. Oh, maybe I'll do a little bit of this because it doesn't scare me. But you're not willing to go out on a limb and invest in yourself and invest in the things that you truly want. And so therefore, again, most of the things that you're doing are just a means to an end. He also asks, is fulfillment always just around the corner or confined to short-lived pleasures? So meaning that no matter what good happens to you, you're not able to acknowledge it. You're not able to have gratitude. You're always looking for the next best thing. Or for some of you, is that you lack discipline. And so there are things that you really want in life, but you make them about shorter pleasures. You'll give into sex with an ex, or food, or certain drinks, or drugs, or thrills, or excitements, instead of being disciplined and pouring your energy into what's truly important. Or are you always focused on becoming, achieving, and attaining? Or do you believe that if you acquire more things, you will become more fulfilled, good enough, or psychologically complete? A lot of us do this. I have done this in the past, right? If we have the money, if we have the car, if we have the house, if we have all the things that we think that we need to have in order for us to feel fulfilled and happy, then we'll be happy. But until we are able to do that, we're unable to be in the now and create that happiness and that feeling, before we get the thing that we think that we need. A lot of people come to me with this one. Are you waiting for a man or a woman to give you meaning to your life? If you answer yes to any of those, then you are already identifying with a false sense of self. You are living your life on psychological time. All right, so he says the old patterns of thoughts, emotion, behavior, reaction, and desire are acted out in endless repeat performances. A script in your mind that gives you an identity of sorts, but it distorts or covers up not only the reality of the now, but the reality of who you truly are. So then, there's somebody asking a question in the book, and this person said, but the belief that the future will be better than the present is not always an illusion, right? Because that's true. For most of us, we do see some sort of hope or some sort of more positive things coming out of the actions that we are taking in the now. And he said, the present can be dreadful and things can get better in the future, and often they do. And so what Eckhart says is that yes, things can be better in the future. And yes, the present that you're living in may not be the way that you want them to be. But usually, and I just mentioned this in my own words, but usually the future is a replica of the past. This is why. This is why. Again, this is why I do what I do. This is why any coach that has a framework that is helping people get ahead and they know what they're doing, especially mindset stuff, this is why we do what we do. For most people, it doesn't matter if you are hopeful about your future. You don't go deep enough to make the changes that you need to make in order to make this hope turn into a reality, or this dream turn into a reality, for various reasons. We talked about many of them in this book and in the last book. However, he's saying usually the future is a replica of the past. Superficial changes are possible. And that's what most people do. They just scratch the surface of the potential and the abundance of what it is that is possible in this lifetime. Real transformation is rare. Real transformation is rare. And it depends upon whether you can become present enough to dissolve the past by accessing the power of the now. What you perceive as the future is an intrinsic part of your state of consciousness now. So if your mind carries a heavy burden of the past, guess what you're going to experience? More of the same. The past will continue to perpetuate itself through a lack of being present about what's true in this moment, and that's now. And also, I believe what's true in this moment, and that's your true identity, the power of who it is that you could truly be if you stop making these superficial changes and you learn how to make these real deep transformations that are rare. Okay. The quality of your consciousness at this moment is what shapes the future, which of course can only be experienced by the now. On a practical level, this is kind of what I was saying when I said that, and he mentioned this too. Whatever you're experiencing right now, you just have to accept it because it's done. And meaning that this moment today, this moment now is already created, it's done. So if you really want to start to experience a different life in the future, he's telling you exactly what you need to do. It's not a mystery. You need to change the energy of the moment of your future by focusing on what you could do right now. So every time that you are making a choice or moving or thinking or feeling, the question you need to ask yourself is, especially if you're somewhere where you don't want to be or you have somewhere that you want to go, is what can I do in this moment now, the only moment that's real, to make, we're just going to say tomorrow, clock time, to make tomorrow better, to make tomorrow different, so that I'm not, what did he say? Carrying the heavy burdens of the past or the future if you're anxiety and worry prone. So you're not carrying these burdens into where you are right now and experiencing more negativity and doubt and all of the things that stop you from being the powerful human being that you were put on this earth to be. All right, we'll do one more little point for tonight. If you are in the Personal Mastery membership and you have questions about our manifesting module, it's not our normal Q&A, but I'm just going to pop in and just talk for a little bit, check in on you ladies. So you head over there after we get off of this. All right, so last little thought for the day. You may find it hard to recognize that time is the cause of your suffering or your problems because you believe that they are caused by specific situations in your life. And seen from a conventional standpoint, the standpoint that we've been taught our whole life, that is true. It does appear that we have this pain and suffering because of things that we've been through in our life. But until you have dealt with the basic problem-making dysfunction of your mind and its attachment with the past that's not real and the future that's not real, and also the denial of the present, the problems are actually interchangeable. And if all of your problems or perceived causes of suffering or unhappiness were miraculously removed today. This is deep, guys, because I want you to go back and kind of think about how powerful this is, that even by you thinking and pulling all this pain and burden from the past or pulling it from the future and thinking that if it was different, you would be different, or if you could wave a magic wand, you would be different, until you could do what he's saying about not identifying with your mind, not identifying with your feelings, being in the present moment of now through self-awareness at all times, which is not easy, but that's where you're going to find your freedom. Then listen to this. If all of your problems or perceived causes of suffering or unhappiness were miraculously moved for you today, but you failed to become more present and more conscious, you would soon find yourself with a similar set of problems or causes of suffering. Because, like a shadow, it will follow you wherever you go. That's deep. It will follow you wherever you go. So ultimately, there is only one problem that you need to work on to try to move forward. And that, to me, there's more than one. There's the identity, how you identify yourself, right? That's number one. But it all goes back to the mind, the time-bound mind itself. So, any questions, any concerns? Again, I know this is a very deep book. If you struggle with this, we talked about this, right? Most of you, if you don't really do this really deep work around being self-aware, being in the now, and then doing the things you need to do to move past the burdens of the mind and the emotions, then you're going to be making these superficial changes that continue to spiral you, where you start off good, you start off motivated, then you get triggered and you fall back. Or you try to accomplish something in your life and then negative self-talk comes in and then you fall back. And so you scratch the surface of a change, and so you're able to change certain aspects of your life and then you fall back. What is truly going to help you change your life, and what most people need help with, is making that really deep transformation that comes through the transformational coaching, the mindset coaching, the subconscious reprogramming, all of those things to help allow you to learn the tools and the framework that you need to move forward. And so if it's something that you struggle with and it's something that you want me in particular to help you out with, if you're on Instagram, you can check the link in my bio, or you can reach out to me on any platform, or my email is yashika@yashikasintuition.com. Contact me. We can see if private coaching is right for you, because that's how you make lasting change. You have to make really deep transformations and go deep. And a lot of times you may not even know what it is that's holding you back. You may think you have an idea, but really it's all mindset. It's all mental. All right. So today's Thursday. So we will start back up on Monday at same time, same place, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll probably be on going to chapter 4 at that point. All right. I will see you later. I'll see you Monday. Bye.